is Matthew. My major is wildlife, fish, and conservation biology, and my minor is in psychology. And I have a lot of experience with wildlife populations, monitoring wildlife populations, banding birds, and especially with songbirds and bats. And I'm very excited to be attending the webinar on June 18th, and I'll see you all there.
Hey all, my name is Sanjay Shrikmar. I'm a major in computer science at business at UC Berkeley. Just wanted to say I'm really excited for the seminar and I can't wait to meet everyone and, potentially give some helpful advice. See ya.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I am a second year BSMD student at Florida Atlantic University and I'm majoring in neuroscience. I'm really excited for the webinar and I can't wait to see you all there.
Hi, my name is Eva Ryan. I'm a rising second-year law student at Emory University School of Law with a bachelor's in diplomacy and international relations from Seton Hall University. When I was younger, I didn't really know anyone in the community who was going to law school or was a lawyer, so I'm really excited to share my experiences with any of you that are interested. See you at the webinar.
Hey guys, my name is Rayon. I'm a fresh high school graduate from Mountain House High School. I'm thinking about pursuing biomedical engineering at UC Davis, and just coming out of high school, I can't wait to share a few fresh thoughts and reflections about my last 4 years of high school with you all. So I'll see you guys at the webinar. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sunil Varghese. I'm the Camyl Director and Manga Vice President. It's our pleasure to host Unveiling Academic Success webinar to you all this evening. Before I get into my official duty to welcome you all, let me briefly talk about what is Camyl and what its mission and vision is. Camyl stands for California Association of Malayali Youth League. It's a youth wing of Malayali Association of Northern California, Manga. Its mission is provide a platform to exhibit our younger kids who are in high school and middle school, the leadership skills. Also, it provides a channel and a platform to perform various community and charity events. This year, when we formed the Camyl board for the term 2021 and 23, myself and with my colleague, Padmapriya Palot, a co-director of Camyl, with approval of the Manga leadership, we made some changes to the Camyl membership policies. Kids who are from our community in high school or middle school are eligible to become a Camyl member. We formed the executive team of 10 people, holds the president, secretary, treasurer, vice president, and joint secretary positions. Each one will get 1 year term. The reason behind is to give chances to many kids in the leadership role of Camyl. Also, we have 5 board of directors in the Camyl. To become an executive member, the requirement is the parents of the kid should be a life member of Manga. There is no requirement to become a Camyl member or life member requirement to become a Camyl member or to become a board of directors. So far, we have conducted many events, but the main events, what we conducted under Camyl label was a charity event in March of 2022. We had a major charity event to feed more than 5,000 refugees in Ukraine. The kids who participated this event experienced the true love and compassion to those folks who were troubled in Ukraine. For the first time of the Camyl history, we launched the quarterly newsletter called Camyl Connect. The idea behind this Camyl Connect is give the platform for our younger minds to exhibit their artistic skills in the form of the poem or opinions, stories, art, narrations, anything. Also, this platform is used to recognize our community members who are performed highly on various areas. Let me take this moment to invite you all, the young kids who are in a middle school and high schooler, to become a Camyl member and also contribute yourself to the Camyl Connect or quarterly newsletter. When we were discussing about upcoming events for Camyl for the next couple of months, we realized that there is a need of a college preparation experience sharing session with our community members. The challenges, what our kids are going through, how those challenges needs to be tackled, what are the preparation, how, etc. needs to be shared within our community members through our own kids who are pursuing the education in the universities. It was not hard for us to find these talents within our community because, as you know, there are many kids who are talented. When we reached out to these distinguished speakers who are going to share their experience today for the rest 2 hours, they wholeheartedly accepted our invitation to come forward and share their knowledge and experience with their juniors and the family members. It's our pleasure to welcome these distinguished speakers of the day. Alice Matthew, who is a major in wildlife, fish and conservation biology from UC Davis. Eva Ryan, rising second year of law student from Emory University School of Law. Rachel Kavalakach, second year BSMD from Florida University. Ryan Narayanaswamy, a fresh high school grad who got admission to UC Davis, the biomedical engineering. And Sanjay C. Kumar, a software engineer, a graduate from UC Berkeley in business administration and computer science. On behalf of Camyl and Manga and the entire Bay Malayali community, we welcome you all to this program. We have board of directors and executive members from Camyl and Manga. We welcome to this webinar. This should be easy. We have Vinay Gupta from UCEC and John Joseph Kanyamparam from Seafords. We welcome you to this program. Last but not least, we have audience who joined our program through Zoom, also watching this program via Facebook and our YouTube channels. On behalf of Manga and Camyl, we wholeheartedly welcome you all to this program. Now, without any further delay, let us kick off this experience sharing session. And it is my privilege and pleasure to introduce and welcome the moderators of the program, Meryl Matthew, the Camyl president, and Anne-Marie Anthony, the Camyl secretary, to take over from here. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining this webinar, and I hope you take away something very valuable to help guide you in your path in academic careers. Anne-Marie?
Hi everyone, I'm Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to see what our speakers have for us, and we hope you enjoy.
All right, now without further ado, let me introduce the first speaker. Alice Matthew is a major in wildlife, fish, and conservation majored in wildlife, fish, and conservation biology at UC Davis with a minor in psychology, and has experience monitoring wildlife populations and working directly with birds and bats. Alice, do you want to talk about your experience? Well, I'm sure biology is like an unfamiliar major, so just, explain.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Alice. I'm a wildlife, fish, and conservation biology major, and that's not a very common major. A lot of UCs don't have that major, and I was so lucky that I ended up going to a university that had that major because it's like exactly what I'm very passionate about. But what motivated me to go into this course was the fact that I have been into wildlife my whole life. Since I was young, I've always been into animals, and I've had a strong appreciation for nature. So I knew I wanted to work with animals. I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. UC Davis has the best veterinary school in the nation. So that's where I went as an animal science major. And that is a great major if you want to go into vet school. But it allows you to work hands-on with a lot of agriculture and work with the industry. And when I was doing internships with that and doing that major, I realized that wasn't what I wanted. And I did an internship with the wildlife department, which I realized was way more my thing. I got to work with baby birds, and I still work with the program now. I worked as an intern before, and now I'm a field leader. So they employ me, and I'm very lucky to get to be in the field every day, and it's very much what I'm passionate in. But since that's something that a lot of people haven't heard of, wildlife conservation biology is just conservation scientists trying to protect or restore habitat that we have so that we could increase biodiversity of mammals, amphibians, reptiles, birds, etc. Try to get all the invasive species out and try to restore the natives and to heal the environment. That's using the help of environmental scientists to take out pollutants from the water and the soil and the air, and working together to keep our ecology more healthy, because there's a lot of damage we do with development. So I one day hope to be a conservation biologist that assesses different management strategies for trying to restore a certain area, or using the Endangered Species Act to like protect the habitat of a certain bird, for example, getting invasives out of an area like the American bullfrog that actually it eats native species. So a lot of different things that I could see myself doing in the future. And those things are aligned with my desire to protect our environment with the ravaging effects of climate change. So yeah, switching into wildlife, getting to hear from actual wildlife biologists and professors really got me interested, and I got to read more papers, and I saw like research is definitely what I want to do. So that is how I was led into this path. I was very lucky to get that internship, and I still am. What helped me to get admission into these colleges? I'd say whatever your college counselors have been saying. I think grades are really important, and like the classes that you take, obviously. If that's aligned with if you're wanting to go into computer science, then probably computer science classes and more math classes, etc. But SAT, I hear, is becoming less important. Correct me if I'm wrong. And essays, I hear, are very, very important. And then extracurriculars. And I'll get more into extracurriculars later, but those are important in showing you what you could be passionate about in your field, and give you things to write about, or have references that show that you're a very responsible person. So I think in that sense, extracurriculars are important for getting to college, but don't put too much on your plate. And that is a point that I hope to drive home. How hard was the journey? I think that everyone here can feel that being a teenager in Silicon Valley and growing up in a very competitive environment can be very, very stressful. And it's very easy to have imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong, you're not smart enough. But it's important to rally for yourself. Otherwise, even if you don't have like confidence in yourself, then how are you going to keep going in life and thriving in life? So that's really important. But yeah, the journey is very hard. You have to take a lot of hard classes. You have to do a lot of extracurriculars to do well in school, and it can be very challenging. So yeah, I think everyone can agree probably. Was there any time that I felt like giving up? Yeah, I think junior year I took a lot of APs, and so spring quarter I was taking AP Calculus BC on top of other APs, getting ready for the AP exams. But I was also in track. I did hurdles all 4 years, so I would come home at like 6 or 7 o'clock, sleep for a few hours, and then do my AP Calculus homework for like 4 hours, and it was not a very healthy lifestyle. It was a lot of work that I had to do. Probably, so a lot of times I felt like giving up and like not wanting to put that work in, but I'm so thankful that I did, because I ended up being rewarded for that. Like I was doing well in AP Calculus. I had an incredible teacher who put the time into teaching me in a really productive way. So getting that feedback and doing well helped me to keep going. But like when it gets to that point, when you're not getting sleep, you're not eating well, you're not like taking care of yourself, you need to take a step back and reevaluate and put your health first, because I'm sure everyone here can attest to
putting all these things that you think you need for college in front of your health, and that's not okay. How many AP classes were helpful? That is an interesting question because I feel a bit annoyed at the fact that College Board makes you pay for your AP exams before you know what colleges you go into, because a lot of those AP classes can be really helpful, but you won't get credit for them in college. So there's no point in taking the AP exam. But I ended up taking all my AP exams and I did pretty well. But I'd say I'm a psychology minor, so AP Psych was an amazing class for me. AP Environmental Science gave me a really great background in environmental science going into the field of ecology. And I suggest to everyone, if you have the opportunity to take that class, that you should, because it's important that we all, I think, like, you shouldn't just take classes just to put it on, to check a box. You should take them because you're interested. Like, I wanted to learn psychology on a deeper level because I was interested in it. I wanted to learn environmental science on a deeper level because it was interesting. And if we all have that knowledge, I think the world could be a better place. AP Calculus was helpful because it got me out of math in my wildlife major. AP Spanish, maybe not so helpful. I might have gotten credit for it. I don't know. I don't regret taking it. I think I really enjoy Spanish, so I would still take it. But AP Statistics also I got credit for that class. So that was good. And I think it's important if you're thinking about doing anything with science to take a statistics class at some point. Trying to think of other classes. So most of mine end up being helpful, but there are a lot of cases where you're taking an AP exam that you will not get credit for. So don't put too much on your plate. Don't put too much that you can't handle. Try to take the classes that you're actually passionate about. Like I'm a psych minor because I had an amazing psych professor and I really enjoyed the class. And taking AP Environmental Science really got me passionate about the environment, like gave me a new understanding of the environment. So don't take, and AP Gov. I took AP Gov as well, and that gave me a good understanding of the government. You want to know that, but don't take a random AP that you don't think is applicable to your career and you're not interested in. Just because you think it's what you're supposed to do. What are other extracurricular activities that helped you? So I did a lot of extracurriculars. I did track all 4 years, as I said. I did community involvement and I was in Bollywood, which I really enjoyed. I did Kaiser for 2 years. I was a Kaiser volunteer, and then I worked as volunteer at the Wildlife Society and the Wildlife Center. And that was a wildlife rehabilitation center. And I think that was like my first introduction into wildlife. So that was really great for me. And that is probably what springboarded me into that path. But other things like Kaiser and track, I think I mostly just did for college. So you just have to think about like how much time you're putting in and how much you're getting out of it. And if you're not getting out of it and it's taking a lot of your time, don't do it. But the Wildlife Center was really great. Community involvement was really great. Bollywood was a wonderful experience that like I really enjoyed. And all of these things that you can write about. I had some great experiences in the Wildlife Center that I could write about that got me really passionate, that I still talk about today. And that was amazing. And Kaiser, I did because I thought I wanted to go into medical school. So I'd say there's kind of a balance. You have to figure out, you want to do a spectrum of extracurriculars so you appear well-rounded and you also experience different things to see what you want to do. But if something is taking up your time more than you wanted to, I probably should have stopped track earlier than I did. So make sure that you have enough time for yourself. But extracurriculars are good because they allow you to, they're just, they're good. And then finally, my message for high schoolers and their parents is, work hard. I think everyone here is a really hard worker. You have to be to make it, but put yourself first and make sure you check in with yourself that you're not piling too much on your plate. And college is like a new time for you to find yourself and to like, I changed my major in my freshman year. And from there, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I know for sure this is what I want to do. But, just do some light research about different majors, like look through the list, see what you want to do, and take advantage of your time. You're paying for a very hefty tuition, not just so that you could just take classes in one field and succeed, but even other classes. If you want to do a minor in something completely different, that just makes you more well-rounded. And that is the best part of adulthood. So yeah, that is all I had to say.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and hopefully if there's anyone who has questions, we'll get those answered about, your path later on. And Mary?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and especially kind of emphasizing putting yourself first, because I know a lot of times we lose sight of whether this is what we really want to do. So kind of emphasizing that's really great advice. So next up, we have Eva Ryan. As we heard before, she's going to be a second-year law student at Emory University, and she also has her bachelor's from Seton Hall University in international relations and diplomacy. So law is usually a really focused field. Eva, did you know that this is something that you wanted to do, and how has that kind of guided your educational path?
Let's see, can you all hear me? Excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction. And yes, law was something I always knew I wanted to do, and it definitely did inform some of the choices I made in high school and college, but I'll get into that in a bit. I just wanted to applaud Alice really quickly for everything she mentioned about wildlife conservation, especially because it's arguably an increasingly important topic nowadays. And I'll also throw in a shameless plug that environmental law is another great forum to pursue passions like that. Listening to Alice actually reminded me of a few cases I read during my first year in law school, where, for example, the EPA said a state administrative agency couldn't build a dam because it would endanger a species called the snail darter, which I think was a species of fish. But the EPA won that case. One of the reasons I think law is a great career path is because law permeates all areas of life. Environmental issues, intellectual property, and tech and medicine, the criminal law that we all see on TV, etc. Now, with all of that said, hi, my name is Eva Ryan. As was already said, I have an undergrad degree in diplomacy and international relations from Seton Hall, which is in New Jersey, and I am currently a rising 2L at Emory in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, to clarify what 2L means, law school takes 3 years in total. I've completed my first year of law school and my second starts of August. Second year of law, 2L. Talking about why I chose my undergrad major and then later law school go hand in hand, because once I figured out that I wanted to go to law school, my goal was to finish my bachelor's degree as quickly as possible. In several countries, you can study to become a lawyer directly out of high school, but in the US, you need to get a bachelor's first. Before you can apply to law school, where you'll basically get a JD, which is a doctorate degree in law. Now, I always had an interest in politics and international relations, and Seton Hall is quite close to the UN in New York. I actually know a lot of my fellow alumni who are working at the United Nations or on Capitol Hill, international nonprofits, etc. Now, in my case, law school was always the goal, so I was able to leave Seton Hall after 2 years, and then I worked for a teacher for about another 2 years before going to law school. Now, why was I so single-minded about law school? Actually, until the end of middle school, I was convinced I wanted to be a pediatrician because I loved mine, and so I thought that was the path for me. But compared to my math and science classes, my interest in reading, writing, critical argument was a lot stronger. And the summer before high school, I actually ended up reading a book called The Rainmaker by John Grisham, who is an author famous for writing legal drama type novels. Now, was that book, or really any TV show or movie that you see nowadays, an accurate representation of what legal practice is like? Absolutely not. Was it enough to get me interested in the legal field at the time? Sure. And I want to stress that right now, whether you're interested in law or STEM or another path, it's fine if you don't have it all figured out right now, or if something seemingly minor sparks a non-traditional interest. What's important is how you build on those interests. And in my case, my extracurricular and work experience at places like the Public Defender's Office helped me confirm that law was what I wanted to pursue. Now, speaking as to what helped me with college admissions, in my experience, whether it's a graduate school or an undergraduate program, the most important things are your numbers. So for college, your GPA and ACT or SAT scores. And then for law school, it's your undergraduate GPA and your LSAT score. Now, one can definitely help you compensate for another. For example, in high school, my GPA was nothing special, but my SAT score was pretty good, which helped not only with admission, but with obtaining a really nice scholarship. On the other hand, for law school, I had a really high undergraduate GPA, but the LSAT took me a few tries so I could get my score as high as I wanted it to be, so I would be competitive for admissions and scholarships at the best law school. At the best law schools. Your numbers really matter. I will note the importance of test scores might be changing in the coming years as more schools are going test optional, I believe, nowadays. But in general, no amount of amazing extracurriculars or internships are going to compensate for a bad GPA and test score, because in admissions, that tends to be a screening bar. They're not going to look any further into your file if your GPA or your test score falls below a certain threshold. Now, how hard was the journey to law school? There were definitely ups and downs. For example, high school was really tough for me because I pushed myself really hard. If someone I knew was taking Calculus BC, then surely I should take that class. And if someone seemed to get their A effortlessly, then surely I would be upset with myself if I had a harder time. In general, I struggled with biting off more than I could chew and not asking others for help. Now, going to college with those lessons really helped me. Academically, I did much better, though my senior thesis was still a very intense experience. The process of applying to law school and getting through my first year was definitely stressful, mainly because I didn't know many people who had gone through the process. I didn't know any lawyers from my community, and most of the attorneys I had worked alongside by at that point had gone to law school decades ago. The first year of law school, it took, well, before I talk about the first year of law school, it basically took me a lot of YouTube and Google and trial and error before I got into law school. And the first year of law school itself is uniquely challenging. Any lawyer or law student will tell you it's tough because you're essentially learning a new language of legal jargon at the same time as these very new subjects of law: contracts, civil procedure, torts, property, legal writing, and the whatnot. However, all you can do is your best. Everything will pass in time, and there's no point in beating yourself up over what ifs. You didn't get a great grade in that class, or maybe that exam. You didn't get the internship or the school you wanted. That's tough. But all you can do is reflect, take your learning opportunity, and move on to the next class, the next internship, the next school, or the next job. If you're determined enough, you'll get where you want to be. And you'll probably learn interesting things during those unexpected detours. Don't sweat the small stuff. Almost everything in the long run is small stuff. How did I persevere through the tough times in the past? The easy answer for this past year has been my cats. I have 2 here in Atlanta, and with how nocturnal they are, they make excellent study partners during final season. Now, serious answer, taking my learning opportunities. Learning not to bite off more than I can chew and relying on my support system were what I took away from the tough times in high school, and that was what helped me in college. College and the process of applying to law school taught me not to linger on my missteps or my rejections. That helped me immensely in law school. All of that's retrospective though, in hindsight, everything's 2020. In the middle of tough times, don't rely on just yourself. You have your faith, your family, your friends. It's so important to surround yourself with good people, but as long as you're pursuing the things you're passionate about, you'll find your people along the way, because you get back from the universe kind of what you put into it. And don't forget to drink water, exercise, and sleep. I know in the Bay Area, it's all about that stress and the grind culture, but in my opinion, it's overrated. Staying hydrated, rested, and going out with a gym buddy when you can really enables good decisions. Coming to APs specifically. So background, I took, I want to say 8 or 10 AP classes in high school, which did help me graduate early. Hot take, in my opinion, AP classes are overrated. In particular for me, they weren't that relevant because I was going non-STEM. But in general, I've heard a lot of UCs or colleges won't accept, for example, maybe AP biology for credit. You still have to take their equivalent of that class. So what's the point? Unless you really just thrive on the challenge and you can get an A really easily, in my opinion, full disclaimer, you might as well take the normal math or science or history or English class, ace it, and then maintain a great GPA while still having more time for that extracurricular passion or for your family and friends. Now, instead of AP classes, what I would recommend are summer community college courses online. Those classes are usually free to high school students, and you can take them in subjects that interest you. For me, that included anthropology and sociology. Online classes are usually very easy and low effort, and colleges will usually give you credit for them. Now, coming to the extracurricular activities that helped me, my top three extracurriculars from high school that really helped me concretize my interest in law were debate, mock trial, and peer court. Speech and debate is obviously helpful to build your public speaking skills, and that'll serve you well in any career. Mock trial, however, was particularly useful because I was being coached and evaluated by practicing attorneys and judges. Every year, my team competed in the courthouse in San Jose. And it was overall an excellent opportunity to explore the litigation side of law, which is at most half of what legal practice can look like, but probably what most of us are curious about at first. It's what we know from the media. Finally, peer court is a program that doesn't necessarily exist everywhere, but is typically organized by county. So in my case, peer court was organized by Santa Clara County. In peer court, high schools serve as advocates and the jury for actual juvenile clients their age. Think high school students who have committed minor offenses, misdemeanor level. Now, in exchange for not having these offenses show up on a criminal record, their cases are heard in front of an actual judge, but their peers are the advocates and the jury. There's not really a question of guilt, but rather the jury will set certain tasks that the client then has to do. For example, a letter of apology to the victim, counseling, community service, etc. There as well, you're mentored by practicing attorneys as well as law students. Legal internships can be hard to get a hold of until college, so I wouldn't really start thinking about those yet if you're interested in law. But if you know someone who's a practicing lawyer or could get you hooked up with a legal department, pursue it by all means. My time at the public defender's office, working with indigent, generally poor clients who can't afford their own representation in Monterey County, was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. Now, in law school, obviously there are different practice societies and clubs, but that's a whole separate conversation. At y'all's age, overall, debate, mock trial, and peer court. These are the top three activities I recommend if you're interested in law, because they'll expose you to actual practitioners. Now, to wrap up, because I know I've gone on for a while. Final advice to high school students, middle school students, and parents. I think I've preached on most of my big points so far, but don't try to take every AP or every extracurricular. You want to figure out the most efficient method to get a great GPA and test score purely for admissions. Now, stay hydrated, rested, and motivated by surrounding yourself by people with drive and goals. And on that last note, if you are interested in law school, I know how scary that path can be when you're trying to figure it out alone. Please feel free to reach out to me by phone or email, and I would be happy to provide contact info after the webinar. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I really admire the way, you stuck to your guns with your passions and really pursued that the second you figured it out, that's what you want to do. Even something as small like a book can really inspire you to find a career that's your own. And also I'm noticing a theme here, which is not biting off more than you can chew and prioritizing yourself first. So we'll see if that continues throughout the webinar, but really important advice.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. And also, I'm definitely biting back the urge to see your cats, ask you to see your cats. But thank you for really emphasizing, balance and finding the best way to kind of round yourself out and do what you're really passionate about.
Okay, so our third speaker is Rachel Kavalakat. She's a second year of medical integrated BSMD program at the Florida Atlantic University. Rachel?
Hi, Meryl. Hi, Mary. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I think what Alice and Eva both brought up in their speeches was honestly really golden stuff. So I'm going to try to follow that up with some of my own experiences, but I really liked everything that they talked about, especially about balance and about kind of taking care of yourself and not losing sight of yourself throughout the journey. And also The Rainmaker is an awesome book, so I can second that recommendation. Yeah, so I am a second year BSMD student at Florida Atlantic University. To those of you who don't know what a BSMD program is, it's kind of an integrated medical program for students right out of high school who kind of are really set on the medical field, who know that they want to become doctors, and giving them the opportunity to gain admission to both college and medical school in a kind of combined integrated path. So I'll talk a little bit more about how the BSMD admission process differs from a traditional college application process. But to kind of sum up the kind of student that would apply to a BSMD program, it's one that not only knows that they want to do medicine, but also kind of understands what kind of the path means and what it takes to kind of pursue a journey like that. And also one that's explored a lot of interests in high school and is for sure knows that they want to pursue medicine. So I'll speak for myself. I was kind of a kid who had a lot of interests growing up, and for a very long time, actually, conversely to what Ava was saying, how she wanted to become a pediatrician and then she discovered law, I wanted to be a lawyer until I was in about 7th grade. And then I discovered medicine. And so which is kind of funny, but I had a lot of interest when I was growing up. I really loved reading, and I loved literature, and I loved English, and I also really loved law. I loved the show Suits, and I was like, I was really into speech and debate in middle school, and so I was like, oh, law for sure. And then when I kind of got into high school and I started thinking a little bit more about kind of what career path to pursue, I was able to take classes that kind of shaped my career trajectory a little bit. And that's because I took classes such as AP Government and realized that maybe law wasn't actually for me, because that was the first time that I encountered the actual, the actual cases and, the case briefs and all the things that you learn in AP Gov. And kind of had to do a lot more of the legal reading side of law rather than, the flashy speaking side that, you encounter in debate, where you give speeches and you debate people. And that's honestly super fun. And I really enjoyed debate when I did it in high school. But I realized that kind of as I explored law a little bit further and did an internship in law, I realized that I wasn't really attracted to the maybe the legal content rather than maybe the more speaking and kind of political side of debate. So however, that interest in pursuing debate, I pursued it for 4 years. I did it competitively in high school. I did parliamentary debate, and that gave me a really good foundation in kind of my desire to advocate and my interest in advocacy and public policy, and now in pursuing medicine, I'm still very passionate about public health policy and solving health disparities and things like that through through the vehicle of the law as well, but in a medical space. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in high school, I had a lot of interests. I did debate for 4 years. I did journalism for 4 years. And I also took a lot of classes that were more STEM related. Some of my favorite classes in high school were AP Chemistry. AP Chem was kind of the first time that I fell in love with like science. I'm a neuroscience major right now because I really love the chemistry of the brain. But in high school, I really enjoyed AP Chemistry. Even though it was a hard class, it was definitely a challenging class and rigorous, but I really enjoyed, and I had a great teacher who really helped me understand why, why AP Chemistry, operates makes the world operate the way it does. And yeah, it was just a fantastic course. And then I also enjoyed AP Calc and AP Bio as well. I will say that I think my path towards where I kind of firmly cemented my desire in medicine is through a lot of the nonprofit work that I did in India. I was really I really am passionate about educational inequality. And so I worked on a nonprofit project to raise money to send underprivileged and orphan students to gain access to education in rural parts of Odisha, India. And so that was kind of probably the biggest extracurricular that I devoted the most of my time into, aside from, clubs like debate or journalism in high school. This was kind of my external extracurricular that I devoted a large chunk of my time to. And so just having that experience of witnessing kind of the global health disparities that exist in rural parts of India and just a lot of countries around the world that lack healthcare infrastructure. Through this time of kind of raising money, fundraising, and building educational networks in these countries, I was able to really witness the health disparities that went on in those in India and in these places. And so that kind of drew me to think about a career in medicine, and especially one that focuses on kind of global public health policy, because that's kind of the field of medicine that, or I wouldn't call it a field of medicine, but kind of a concentration of medicine that I think is becoming more and more kind of like looked at and focused on. So yeah, I think that like over the course of high school, aside from kind of the nonprofit work and the extracurriculars that I mentioned, obviously grades are super important. All the standard things that Alice and Eva brought up, your grades, your extracurricular, your test scores, your AP classes, AP test scores. For BSMD programs in particular, this is kind of specific to the BSMD application process. They do require a couple of SAT subject tests. Most of the programs or universities that offer BSMD programs often ask you to submit SAT Bio, SAT Chem, or SAT Physics scores. And SAT subject tests are kind of more specialized, I guess, standardized testing exams that just test your knowledge of a certain subject. And so I took SAT Chem and SAT Bio and SAT Physics as well. And then sometimes some programs, you have to go and look at the specific requirements of each program. Some of them require SAT Math 1 or 2. So I took SAT Math 2. So you kind of have to, for the BSMD application process, once you kind of determine that, oh, you want to pursue kind of the BSMD application process, or you kind of are looking for a pathway into medicine straight out of high school, you really have to be diligent during the application process to look at the requirements of every single BSMD program that you want to apply to, because they're all different and they all require different things, different letters of recommendation, or different. Some of them want your resume, some of them want, some of them have secondary applications that you have to do, because you are applying to the medical school concurrently as you're applying to the undergraduate. So you really, in a sense, are doing two applications at once, both the undergrad application and the medical school application. So college apps was definitely a stressful time for me. I was definitely overwhelmed. And I think that there's a lot of, as Alice mentioned, and you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure that's put on when you're raised in the Bay Area. I think that we're all very privileged to be raised here. I think we have access to a lot of opportunities at every corner, and we have access to a lot of just a lot of really cool perspectives, just by virtue of being raised here and having parents who want us to be successful and want us to pursue our educations and find out what we're passionate about. But that does come with a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of thinking that your worth is determined by what you achieve or what you perceive yourself as capable of. And so definitely, especially during the college application process, I think you're never completely confident or completely secure, but I think kind of just relying on or focusing on kind of doing your best, because that's all you really can do. And also focusing on relying on your support systems. For me, my support systems, especially when things got really challenging in high school, was my parents as well as my faith. So kind of just having a connection to the church and kind of like relying on my faith, especially. I remember at kind of like debate tournaments, I used to go to debate tournaments almost every weekend, sophomore and junior year. And so making time to still go to church and like still putting or relying on my faith really when things got hard was super important for me, and continues to be. So yeah, I think for the BSMD application process in general, kind of making sure that you're on top of all the requirements, but also making sure that you really understand why your reasons are for pursuing medicine. I think that so in the process, you have to write a college application essay, which is kind of like your Common App, and then also a why medicine statement, kind of like a personal statement for medical school. And for those essays, I think it's so critical to really understand or really reflect upon your experiences and what led you to choose a career in medicine, or what makes you so sure, because you are really young compared to a normal, medical school applicant. You're about 4 years younger. So it really becomes important to the admissions committees to make sure that you know why you're really pursuing this career. And so for me, what really helped with that, and this is something that I recommend to everyone, is from the middle of sophomore year, I kept a journal. It was just like for me, it was literally like a Google document, but it was like a journal where I just every time I had a memorable experience or something that I was like, wow, this was super profound, I would just kind of write it or take note of it in the journal. I did a lot of shadowing in hospitals in high school. And so every time I had a shadowing experience that I thought was significant, or where I was touched, or even when I had debates that I thought were really significant, or obviously during my nonprofit work, when I met people that really had profound impacts on my life, I would just kind of make note of it and kind of just write a little bit about how I felt and what I took away, or kind of what I what I experienced. And I think that's really, really important to do, because by the time you're a senior in high school, your memory gets a little hazy. So even if you remember what you did, you don't remember how you felt, and you don't remember what you were thinking in that moment. So being able to reference kind of a journal or a log of all the things that I did, and but more importantly, how I felt doing those things and why those things mattered, was really what helped me craft my essays. And I think essays are probably the most important thing in your college application process, especially for BSMDs, because at the end of the day, everyone is pretty qualified. Everyone has good scores or good stats. And it's not to say that you need to be perfect, but it's just saying that everyone kind of has roughly the same sort of experiences, or the same sort of, especially when you're applying to BSMDs, everyone kind of does the same thing: the volunteering, the internships, the classes, the scores. So it's really about differentiating yourself as a person and humanizing yourself to the admissions committees when you're writing your essays. And so really reflecting on what you take away, and really reflecting on kind of who you are in the context of the experiences that you've had, is probably the most important thing. I think essays make all the difference, even if you have parts of your application that maybe aren't, that maybe you aren't maybe if you have parts of your application that you think are lacking or deficient in some way, I think you can 100% compensate for that in your essays, by just sharing who you are and being authentic in them. So that's what I'll kind of conclude by saying, as a final message to, I guess, high schoolers and their parents, is that I think in high school, it seems like everything is very make or break it, and everything is super critical. And I remember especially junior year was probably the year that I was probably working the hardest and sleeping the latest. And it was definitely a stressful time. And I thought that I had to chase success in every single one of the things that I was doing. And every single one of those things was equally important. And you realize, even as you're doing your college apps, that it really doesn't matter the miscellaneous things that maybe you fell short in, or the smaller things that you thought were super important end up being maybe one line on your application, maybe not. Maybe there were a lot of things I did in high school that didn't even end up on my application, but were still good experiences. So I don't regret anything I did in high school. But it's just to say that just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Rely on your support systems. Rely on your faith. Rely on people around you that you trust, and know that everything does end up exactly the way it's supposed to. And you will obviously have moments of doubt, but at the end of the day, there will be a lot of people along the way that will help you, and also a lot of hopefully a lot of really happy and kind of good moments that you take away from high school in the midst of all the stressful and all the other things. So for all the people who are applying in this upcoming cycle, I wish you the best. And if you're in kind of an earlier stage in high school, really just think about what you want to think about, exposing yourself to as many things as you can, because that's probably the best thing you can do to figure out what you want to do. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for talking. I think there was a lot of insightful advice there, and as a fellow speech and debater coming out of junior year, I relate so much of what you said on a deeper level. Just quick note for the audience: the SAT subject tests are not offered anymore. I believe College Board now wants to shift more towards a focus on AP exams and AP classes. So that's just like a quick note if you're confused about the SAT subject tests that were mentioned.
Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I know that College Board is changing a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on. Yeah.
I'll just mention one more thing, just that my college application process was a little unorthodox because I applied during COVID. So everything was definitely probably has changed is what I'll say. So just
And it's always changing. There's always something new. So it's again like important to ask teachers, ask counselors, and try to find out information as recent as possible on top of sort of advice like this.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I loved hearing about, especially like the nonprofit work that you did. I thought that was a really interesting thing that you decided to share, and kind of like diversifying experiences. I think that's really, really important. Next up, we have Ryan Narayanaswamy. He's a recent graduate from Mountain House High School, and he's going to be going to UC Davis. So now that you're really fresh out of high school, what are some moments that stood out to you, and what do you kind of know now that you look back?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So yeah, my name is Rayon. I currently wrapped up my senior year at Mountain House High School, and I plan to pursue biomedical engineering at UC Davis this fall. And so unlike the rest of the panelists who sort of, started their upper studies and are pursuing their respective careers, I've really only just graduated high school. So as I reference things about college and university, it is really just my perspective on these topics. And I'm sure the other panelists have, like stronger or more accurate ideas about these topics. However, for the younger audience going into high school or just having begun their high school careers, I also feel like I have a more fresh perspective and take on my high school experience, just having graduated and sort of ended that 4-year journey. And so although I graduated from Mountain House High School, a majority of my high school experience was shaped by going to a school in the Bay Area called Monte Vista High School, located in Cupertino. I attended Monte Vista from the start of freshman year to the end of junior year. And one thing that Bay Area schools, especially schools like Monte Vista, are known for are their tough competition and high rigor. I mean, the level of competition and the cutthroat environment of Monte Vista itself was insanely high. I think, according to Monte Vista's 2019 profile, just before the pandemic, around 80% of the school itself was of Asian ethnicity. Out of a class of 570 students around, 52% of students had unweighted GPAs falling between a 3.5 and a 3.99. And close to 10% of the entire class had perfect 4.0 unweighted GPAs, meaning these individuals had never achieved less than an A in any class that they took throughout high school, no matter the rigor of the course. And so being among a class that performs so academically well, it's hard to distinguish between individuals. So extracurricular activities were often used as tools for students to separate themselves from the pack, metaphorically speaking. Extracurriculars, in my opinion, were the factor that probably brought the most cutthroat energy to the school environment. Even with hundreds of clubs, I would see my peers attempting to form clubs for the most mundane or even irrelevant of topics. Achieving leadership positions in clubs were often favoritism contests. If you had friends in upper positions, they would inevitably favoritize you as the best candidate for a position when it came time to apply to positions. And I would hear of news of peers receiving prestigious awards for coding competitions, getting accepted into research positions at NASA, traveling abroad for charity work. And although it was super pressurizing to see the peers around me continuously, on this grind and striving to spend time out of school on personal endeavors, that pressure inevitably made me sort of strive to do the same. One common theme I recognized from people pursuing these extracurriculars outside of school was that they were pretty darn good at the things that they did. And yeah, I know it may sound like an obvious thing to say, like students would excel at the things that they want to do apart from school. However, what I saw was future software engineers going out of their way to learn how to code in different languages and enlist themselves into hackathons and coding competitions. I saw future physicians learning how to dissect different organisms and recognize the internal organs and structure cultures and where diseases affect those organisms within the body. I saw future politicians and lawyers getting acclimated to the law process through mock trial, and future engineers learning how to build the robots of tomorrow through robotics. It's with this observation that I sort of realized that, contrary to popular conceptions, colleges may not be looking for well-rounded students that can do everything, but students who show drive and passion for specific subjects and hobbies and excel at specific things. And so by the time I came to this realization, I had already finished my freshman year of high school. And my freshman year was not the best in terms of my grades and pursuits. I didn't quite understand the importance of grades. And so I believe my freshman GPA was something like a 3.3 or a 3.4. I took 7 classes, including classes like Algebra 2, Biology, and Java, and I mainly earned Bs in all of those classes. I didn't take any honors or AP classes, but that was mainly because there were none available for freshmen to take. And I had not really developed any real work ethic. And so being new to high school, I didn't feel the pressure to work hard in any of my classes either. In terms of extracurriculars, I'd been singing my whole life, and so I pursued music through the school choir. And in addition, I played for the boys volleyball team. However, apart from those 2 activities, I've sort of failed to involve myself in any other clubs or communities, which I believe was one of the biggest mistakes I made in high school. And after reflecting back on my freshman year, the biggest piece of advice I would give to incoming freshmen is to not be afraid to discover. It's unlikely that a middle schooler already knows what they want to do for the rest of their life, but high school offers the perfect opportunity to figure those interests out. And when your school hosts, club fairs, try attending the clubs that seem interesting to you. Most notably, I would suggest looking for clubs like Speech and Debate, DECA, Robotics, HOSA, and other organizations that have chapters across the whole country, as these clubs offer students the ability to really learn about and participate in careers revolving around healthcare, business, technology, and etc. And they also help connect you to a vast network of alumni that you could also learn from. If you find clubs that you like, join them with the intent to make a difference and contribute to the atmosphere. Too many times I see students join a club just to say that they were in a club. However, if you're not actively participating and furthering the club in some capacity, whether that be through helping with fundraisers, going to events, placing in competitions, and etc., your position as a just a regular member means little compared to a student who has a leadership position within your club due to their contributions and hard work. If you don't find a club that you like in your school, start a passion project that you know you can work on throughout the year. I believe Rachel mentioned charity work she took on in India, which is fantastic. And you can join sports if you'd like as well. Sports are a great way to make connections and friends. And most importantly, however, prioritize your grades. As these are the first grades that colleges will look at on your transcript, you want to sort of set yourself up for success by achieving high marks and setting that tone for the rest of your high school career. Aiming for high grades automatically forces you to develop a routine and work ethic that you can sustain for the rest of your high school career, and it'll only set you up for success in the long run. And in my experience and research, your GPA is probably the #1 determining factor in getting into a college. I think Eva mentioned some colleges even set GPA caps where if you don't meet a certain threshold GPA, your application is automatically nulled. So keeping your grades high and sustaining those grades will only benefit you in the long run. Sort of coming back to my revelation that I had to turn my grades around and start involving myself into more extracurriculars that sort of aligned with what I wanted to do in the future. I started searching for internships the summer of my freshman year. At this point, I still had no idea what I wanted to pursue in the future. However, through a lengthy process of applying to many high school internship programs, I eventually landed an internship as a marketing intern at a startup based in Fremont, California. In all honesty, this was quite easily the most boring summer of my life. My days were filled sitting in an office, inputting data into a spreadsheet. However, I believe there's always something you can learn from every experience. And what I took out of my internship freshman year was that I could not do office jobs. And so, with that knowledge, I came into 10th looking to see if I had any interests that laid within the sciences. And 10th was a tricky time where, we had around a semester to really discover what our interests were before a worldwide pandemic sort of came in. But during the summer of 10th, I took classes like psychology and environmental sciences at the local community college, and I attended research seminars that I found online to hear professors talk about their research and the field of biomedical research as a whole. And although the summer was rather uneventful, the summer sort of also spurred my interests in the sciences, which I carried with me into my junior year. Junior year is often regarded as the most important and vital year in your high school career, and that statement is something I can agree with. Your junior year is the last year in high school that colleges will see when evaluating your application. And so you want to make sure that your junior year displays the most enthusiastic and disciplined version of yourself. If you had poor grades in years prior, doing well junior year allows colleges to see an upward trend in your application. If your rigor was not that hard in years prior, taking more challenging courses in junior year allows colleges to notice that you can handle a harder workload that you will inevitably receive in college. If you weren't involved in communities or didn't do things to further your interests, junior year offers you the ability to show colleges that you have other hobbies and interests and have the motivation to build upon them like they expect you to do in college. And so for me, junior year was probably the most successful year of my high school career. After having poor grades my freshman year and mediocre ones my sophomore year, I ended up with something like a 4.7, I think, in my junior year, as I took weighted courses like AP Computer Science, AP Biology, AP Literature, and Pre-Calc honors. And were there more weighted courses I could have taken my junior year? Sure, but after struggling my freshman year, I sort of realized that courses I should be taking are ones that I know I could do well in given enough effort, and classes that interest me and relate to what I want to do in the future. In AP biology, for example, I learned about bacteria with recombinant DNA and G-splicing abilities. And through AP computer science, I learned how to write algorithms and stimulate growth models of bacteria contained in cultures. And with the information learned in my classes my junior year, I found a way to experience fields of biology and computer science in an interdisciplinary way by being admitted into a research program at a research center and hospital based in LA. Working with my principal investigators, I was introduced to the interdisciplinary field of bioinformatics, which is a branch of biomedical engineering involving the use of computer science to solve modern problems in biology and medicine. My research was titled An Evaluation of Deep Learning Classifiers and Cell Type Identification from Single-Cell RNA Sequencing Data, but put simply, the research involved running biological data through different machine learning classifiers to discover which tool performed the best at categorizing cells based on their cell type. My experience in being able to actually conduct research and take classes from the research center's graduate school solidified my interest in wanting to pursue biomedical engineering as a career in the future. And so my advice is to take advantage of any and all resources you can in your junior year and throughout high school in general. Being the last year that colleges can observe who you are as a student, work hard to really end on a high note. And in addition to research, internships, community service, or whatever it is that you find is the best use of your summer, the summer of junior year is also the perfect time to get started on college applications. Most essay prompts for colleges only release, I think, in the beginning of the senior year, but this shouldn't prevent you from, making a list of colleges that you want to apply to and finding colleges that are right for you. Create a document where you list down any and all accomplishments that you've achieved throughout your high school career and list down notable experiences that you can use to write good and interesting college essays. You will want and you will need all this information through the college application process. So getting a head start will only save you time and stress. Finally, as I look back specifically on the college admissions process, one of the most notable pieces of advice I can give out is to not let the reputation of a school discourage you from applying there. Unlike the pre-COVID era where counselors could tell you with high certainty the chances of a student ending up at a specific university, the cancellation of standardized tests have only placed more importance on things like extracurriculars and essays, which makes college admissions really unpredictable. You never know which college admissions officer will actually read your application, and while one will find you a good match for their school, another will reject your application right away. So there's a tremendous amount of luck involved in these processes. I've had friends in this cycle get rejected from all the UCs, yet get accepted into top public universities like Georgia Tech and University of Michigan. So as long as you sort of want to go to a school and believe that the school will be a good fit for you, in my opinion, never hesitate to apply because you truly never know what your chances are at that school. And so with that, thank you for listening to my talk, and I hope you all got some good perspectives out of it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think there was a lot of sort of practical advice there with, maintaining grades and making sure that you have a strong repertoire to draw from for college applications.
Yeah.
And I love how you brought in advice for basically every year of high school. I think, thank you for going so detailed. It's really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Sanjay Srikumar, who majored in computer science and business administration at UC Berkeley and is now a software engineer working in the East Coast. Hi, Sanjay.
Hey, thanks for the intro. This is tough. I think I'm going last, and I heard a lot of great things from everyone before me. So I'll try my best, try to give some helpful advice that hasn't already been said. But yeah, so my name's Sanjay. I'm currently a software engineer. I live out in the East Coast, as previously mentioned. I work for a tech company called C3 AI. Specifically, the reason why I'm out on the East Coast is that I'm focused on basically interacting with the federal government, kind of building, machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions for them. Like our company's actually based in San Francisco, but we're building a team out in DC, which is why I'm living there. So to end up there, like I kind of had a little interesting of a career trajectory, especially for my field, being in technology. So and my background is like I graduated UC Berkeley in 2018. Double majored in computer science and business, but during college, I was actually part of a scholarship program for the federal government. So I actually interned for the Department of Defense every single summer when I was in college, applied for it when I was a high school senior, and was kind of able to get, financial assistance from the government. But once I graduated college, I worked for the DoD as software engineer, and that's kind of what started an interest in public service, and kind of the intersection between tech and government. So, which is it was a very new sector when I was in it, but now it's starting to become bigger and bigger. I think there's a lot of technology companies that are like, in that space right now. So it's definitely kind of an exciting space to be in. But it's, very, very much not a traditional place to kind of be with my career, especially to some little bit more context. Like I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, went to high school here. So a lot of tech people are in the Bay Area. So kind of moving out there and doing work in Washington, D.C. is a little bit unusual. But I think what might be best is for, in terms of kind of giving advice about the college process, is for me to kind of like go through, similar to the last speaker who gave some like great advice, to kind of like my 4 years of high school, what kind of made me interested in, studying computer science, and, what kind of got me, into UC Berkeley potentially, and, some of the lessons I learned from there. So I mentioned this earlier, but I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Fremont. It's kind of similar to what was said earlier. I went to a pretty competitive high school. I went to Mission San Jose High School. So definitely, it was I think there's pros and cons of going to, certain schools. And I think one of the lasting things that I kind of got out of going to a high school like that, which, I think is like 98% Asian, and, very much a school full of children, that whose parents kind of work in technology or work in, very high profile fields, is like your peer group really matters, right? So like I had the chance to, be friends with people that were at least fairly successful, like especially when it comes into getting calls. And I think I learned a lot from them, but I also had other friends that had other interests and other passions and were successful in other ways. And I think I've carried that, when I went to UC Berkeley, I made sure to have kind of a diverse sort of like network. And even, in my professional career, I really try to make sure I don't just hang out with certain group of people, because like, I think like a personal philosophy of mine is like, you try to learn, the best out of every person, right? Like everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, and you just try to learn from the best of them, right? And you try to kind of figure out what you want to do and where you want to take your career. So kind of like so taking a step back, like what motivated me to study engineering in college, and eventually also study business was I think I've always kind of been in computers like pretty early in my life. But I'm definitely someone with a lot of different interests. And I think that might be a theme with some of the people that spoke today, but I'm kind of also falling in that bucket too. I was very convinced that I wanted to be a lawyer for a long time. I think and like I was fairly good at public speaking. I did debate, a high school debate all 4 years of college. I was a president of my school's debate team. So that was like a focus of mine early. Like I think in ninth grade, I wanted to be a lawyer. But then I kind of did a little bit more research of like what like being a lawyer really means. And I kind of decided like like I didn't really want to do that, but I did kind of want to kind of continue pursuing this passion of like coding and like working with computers. So I specifically in high school I had a passion for like cybersecurity, like basically like kind of like I guess the people think of it as like computer hacking, but something similar to that. So I used to compete in like in competitions, like it's called a capture the flag, where you basically there's these like puzzle, you solve it, and I placed pretty well in those, and that's kind of how I got into this federal government job, because the federal government, there's a lot of interest, people that are in that intersection with cybersecurity. So that's kind of how I went down that path eventually. But I did that in ninth grade. I also pursued my passion in debate. So I guess one concrete piece of advice that I'll say is when it comes to like extracurriculars in high school is I think you really should pursue what you're passionate about, and it doesn't really matter what it aligns towards. That's just my opinion, right? Because like I did debate because I really enjoyed it. When I was in ninth grade at my high school, like nobody did debate because it wasn't a really popular thing in my school, and I did it because like I did Lincoln Douglas debate, which is like a one-on-one debate for those in the speech and debate community, and I really enjoyed it, and like I just did it because it was fun, and that's what extracurriculars really are, right? Like I think now it's kind of warped into what can get me to college, but extracurriculars are extra. Like school enough as hard as it is, right? So like what's going to motivate you, like to stay up and work, right? And like what's going to like push you forward. And that was debate for me. Like I really enjoyed debate, and I just did it because I had fun. I didn't even think about college, and I put a lot of work into it. Like I was pretty successful with it in my 4 years. I like did competitive debate, and then like the really rewarding thing though was kind of building that club up, right? Because it was a very small club when I joined, and by the time I left, we were nationally ranked. Like we were sending students to the Tournament of Champions, which is like the highest level of circuit debate for speech and debate. And I was actually more focused on the team building side than my actual like debate career, because that's like where my interests were. So our club went to I think like 100 to 200 members by the end of it, from basically like 10 to 15 when I was a freshman in high school. So there's a lot of work involved in that, but I really enjoyed it. Like it was very invigorating. So I think that's like one big thing that I would suggest doing. Kind of just do stuff that you're interested in. I don't think you have to worry too much about it aligning towards your major, because like honestly, debate doesn't really align towards like applying to engineering schools in college, right? But because what I was interested in is what I put a lot of effort and time into. So I guess the other piece of advice is like in terms of classes, like I try to take I took as hard classes as I possibly could. I mean, looking back, maybe wasn't the right thing to do. Definitely, it was very, very, very stressful sometimes. A lot of late nights, especially my junior year. I think I took like 5 or 6 AP classes. But I think pushing yourself is important, right? And I learned a lot from those classes. And the other thing about like really pushing yourself hard in high school is I think it makes you more prepared for college. Like when I went into Berkeley, like especially if you go to like a school that can also be competitive, like a large public school at UC Berkeley. I noticed that students that had a tougher journey in high school tended to do better, versus like students that kind of had it a little bit easier for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe like some of them are outside of their control, to be honest. So I try to push myself as hard as I could, I think that was kind of part of the reason why I was able to get into colleges. So the other thing is like kind of to hustle a little bit, if that makes sense. So I remember my junior year of high school. So I'm like the oldest in my family, and my parents didn't really know a lot about college, and I was kind of doing a little research on my own because I was wanted to get into good schools, and I knew a lot of people were doing internships, and this is back in the day where I feel like now kids do internships all the time, but when I applied high school in 2014, so it's been some years. Applied to college in 2014. And I was a junior in high school, and my very smart and competitive peers were doing summer internships at like universities and research internships, and they applied to all these programs and they got in, and I didn't really know, and I was kind of like in behind the eight ball, and I was kind of feeling a little bit down about myself. I'm like, oh, what am I doing this summer? Like everyone's doing all these cool things, and then I think I made this decision on my own where I'm like, well, I have this very particular interest, right? I'm interested in computer science. I'm interested in cybersecurity. Like that's what I've been doing. What if I just reach out to, like professors, because I wanted to do a research internship, and just say, hey, this is who I am. This is my background. Like, can I just, intern for you, right? And I just sent a bunch of cold emails out to all these professors, just kind of, shot in the dark, like you miss 100% of shots you don't take. And I was really surprised. I mean, it might have changed now. It's been some years. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure it's more competitive now, but a lot of professors were just like excited. Like I got responses. Like I remember one professor literally was like, if I wasn't, taking a break this summer, I'd love to have you. And I got, I was able to get one opportunity at UCLA, which I think really helped me in my college admissions process. I worked for a computer lab, which basically was trying to secure wireless pacemakers. Like, if you're, have a medical condition, sometimes you have to like wear a pacemaker or a medical device on your body. And it used to be, and sometimes it still is, like a lot of that communication is not secure. So like think of a worst case scenario, you could have like, do a remote execution of a human being, right? If you like hack into the network. So I did that summer. That was awesome. I stayed at UCLA for the summer in an apartment. I actually had like a post-grad roommate. That was a fun learning and growing experience. But yeah, no, it was awesome. Like and that was just because like, I kind of hustled a little bit. I wanted something and I figured out a way to get it, right? So, and I think that helped a lot, especially at applying to colleges. And the same thing with the scholarship program, right? Like I think I got like a flyer in the mail saying like, there's this, federal program, like, like that's looking for applications. It aligned with my, career interests, aligned with what I was interested in cybersecurity. I applied for it. And kind of went through the interview process. I flew out to the East Coast when I was a senior, and I was lucky enough to get it. So that's kind of in a nutshell my journey. I mean, I'll be honest. Like I applied to college in 2014. I think things have gotten much worse. Since things have gotten much more competitive, which is unfortunate. But I mean, I think some of the same principles really do apply. So I guess some other points how, like questions like, how hard was it? Like, do you ever feel like giving up? Like 100%, like it was very challenging. Like high school was challenging. Honestly, college for me was really challenging. Like there's very stressful moments. One thing is like, I said I majored in computer science and business, and this is kind of a general advice on career trajectory, but I went into college as a computer science major, but then kind of going back to what I said earlier about having a lot of different interests, I was kind of felt pigeonholed as being a computer science major at Berkeley. Like I did debate in high school. I liked kind of entrepreneurship and business. Like had some side projects going on, and I was thinking like, am I just going to be a computer science major? Like maybe I should double major in something else. And I was lucky because the school that I went to had a really good business program, right? And also an undergraduate business program, which isn't as common. And the way it worked actually is that you applied as a sophomore in college. So like it wasn't something where you already knew what your major was. So I decided to apply for it, just and like did all the prerequisite classes, because I was like, what if I do both? And it worked out for me, and I was able to kind of do it. And I'm very grateful that I did, because like it's kind of like going back to that topic of having a wide kind of network, right, and of friends and like people you talk to, because I had my engineering buddies, right, like when I did computer science, but then because I was in the business school, I interacted a lot with like people that studied business, and I learned a lot from them too. And I'm just trying to learn as much as I can like in college, which is like a great opportunity to do so. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up, doing both in college. So like that's another, I guess, piece of advice there is like your career trajectory can definitely change. Like I know people like went into college thinking they're going to study one thing, and then they studied something completely different. And you should never kind of like, lock yourself up into, doing one thing. Like the point of college is kind of understand and explore. So like, if you feel like you don't like what you're doing, like don't hesitate to kind of change your major. I think there's some sort of statistics that a person changes their major like 8 times in college on average. Maybe I wouldn't recommend changing it 8 times because you might not graduate on time, and that might put pressure on your family in terms of have to help them pay for college for you. But I think yeah. I mean, I ended up probably switching what I wanted to do 3 or 4 times, and ended up with where I ended up with. So yeah, and then I was part of that scholarship program. Interned a couple summers in the East Coast for the federal government. Enjoyed what I was doing. I graduated, moved out there, worked there for a couple years from like 2018 to 2020. The pandemic hit, things kind of slowed down. I kind of realized, I wasn't getting challenged enough in my current career. So I switched jobs. I like working for the tech industry, but specifically for kind of continuing that, building federal solutions. And yeah, I've been there for a couple years, been really enjoying it. I think like, it's fascinating, like what people do with their career. So I guess my lasting piece of advice, right, for anyone kind of going through this process is like, it's very much a marathon, not a race, right? Like I went, like, especially one in high school that I went to, like it was a big deal, when college decisions come out, like it was like this whole event, and people got sad, people got elated depending on what happened. But like looking back on the friends that I have now, years later, like everyone ended up okay. Like like everyone's doing great. Like they're all doing fun, interesting, cool stuff. Like I think looking back, it was, I probably didn't need to stress as much as I did, in high school. And it really is kind of a journey, right? And then people take different paths. People go back to school. A couple of the speakers are now in, graduate school, which is, awesome, or are in graduate school. So it really is a journey, and you don't know where your career is going to take you. And I think college is just one step, right? And it's an important step, but it's just one step. So it's really important to take that into perspective. So, yeah.
Thank you for all of that. I mean, there were so many gold nuggets there of experiences to think about. And as an LD debater turned CS student, I also felt like a lot of this was very like personally resonated with me. Yeah.
I mean, again, thank you so much for going so much in detail and kind of covering all those bases. That was really interesting. I think next up we have,
sorry, just a quick note. We will have a Q&A session at the end after the rest of the items on our list, and then we'll have a Q&A session where you can submit any questions you have to any of our speakers or more generally, so please stick around for that. Now continue, sorry.
Yeah, so we'd like to now invite Sunil Uncle, our president, to introduce our sponsors. Sunil Uncle, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anne-Marie and Meryl, and thank you to all the speakers. I hope all the audience EPs are enjoying the experience, whatever they have been sharing. It's tremendous information. As moderator said, we have a Q&A sessions in another 6 or 7 minutes. We are going to introduce our sponsors of this event. People might think, why do you need sponsors? Because it's an online event. Yes, of course, it is online. But we are using this the sponsorship amount for the good cause, which you're going to talk about. But we have sponsors. One is a platinum sponsors. It's my pleasure to welcome Vinny Gupta, UCEC president and a co-founder. He's a thought leader in a college admissions. He has been featured in national media and is a frequent guest on media stations nationality. So Vinny Gupta, welcome to our program, and thank you for your sponsorship. And hope you will continue to support our events in the coming months and years. And I would like you to speak for a couple of minutes about your organization.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm a parent. I've got 2 children of my own. They're older. The older one graduated from UCLA in communication studies, MBA from UC Berkeley, and now is a fintech entrepreneur. And the younger one went to University of Chicago and studied economics. So with that context, it was just awesome to hear, especially Jayan and Sanjay and Ryan about their experiences. Awesome perspective, guys, especially for young folks like you. I learned a lot. So I wanted to take this opportunity just to briefly introduce UC Easy. And I have a couple of slides just to help those of you that are visual learners. So UC-EC is essentially, it is a specialty school, all virtual. And our goal, our mission is to help students like yourself, especially from families where the parents were educated outside the US, to help you stand out in the college admissions process. So like all of these wonderful speakers, Sanjay and Ryan have been talking about, the process is very complex. They obviously did very well, and that's awesome. But a lot of you and your families might say, this is highly competitive process, and yet the process itself is so uncertain, so complex, and constantly changing. Where do we get help from? And that is what UC Easy does. So again, the name of the organization is University and College Admissions Made Easy. We are an all virtual school, again, with a focus on helping you compete in college admissions. The story behind UC Easy is my co-founder, Vaitish Koladi, who, by the way, is a Keralite himself. So he associates with the mission of Menka. And we co-founded UC Easy because even as highly educated immigrants from India, professionally successful in Silicon Valley, high income, we as families, we really struggled in supporting our own children through high school and college admissions. In my case, a lot of that actually manifested itself in broken dreams for the older child. Like Sanjay, I think, was alluding to the older child journey. So we founded UC Easy just to make it easy for other families like ourselves. So today we are a completely virtual specialty school that helps students in grades 8 till 12 and transfers from community college to four-year colleges. We are all virtual, which means that we can support students all across the United States. So we currently have 1,200 students that we are supporting through a team of about 80 experts. Counselors in grade 8 till 10 that focus on all-round development of the student. That was a big focus of what our speakers, Sanjay and Ryan, have been talking about, right? All-round development, right kind of extracurriculars. And then in 11th and 12th grade, we help with the actual college applications. We are very proud that 98% of our students over the last few years have been accepted into colleges ranked in the top 10%. Almost 50 of the experts on our team are current or ex application readers from top colleges, including UCs, Berkeley, LA, San Diego, Ivy League colleges like Stanford. Obviously, it's not an Ivy League, but Ivy League type colleges like Harvard and Stanford. I wanted to just take a few more minutes to talk about, to put our perspective on what is now important in college admissions. And why is it that we really believe that the process has become very complex, and which is why someone like UC Easy is so relevant at this point of time. The speakers talked about some of this. Let me provide a structured framework. When our team did an analysis of what the top 10% colleges in the country are looking for, here is the high level. Grades and coursework are number one in college admissions. Test scores are losing value. As most of you would be aware, UCs and CSUs don't consider them at all, period. What is really important, and that's an eye-opener for a lot of students and parents, especially immigrant parents like me, is the amount of weightage that's allocated to the non-academic factors. And our speakers before me talked about this already. Extracurricular activities, I may disagree with the perspective of some of these speakers in terms of what kind of activities. We personally believe that they have to relate to your choice of major/career, but they also need to show interest in some other areas. If you aspire to the topmost colleges in the country, essays in our belief are now ranked #2 in the country, and essays are all about building your unique stories, which take multiple years to do. And the third part that I like to share with you is whatever you want to do in college and career, talk to yourself and be clear about why you want to do this. And this requires a tremendous sense of self-awareness. I think directly or indirectly, Sanjay, Ryan, and others were alluding to that. I'm just providing you with a structured framework of all of this. So that's all I wanted to share with you. For those of you that would like to learn more about UC Easy programs, simply reach out to us through uceasy.com. That's uceazy.com. Again, good luck to all of you. Sunil, back to you.
Thank you, Vinny. And so you shared very, very informative information to parents and children as well. Thank you for that. And since you mentioned only Sanjay and Rayan, so we had 3 speakers before you joined, Alice and Eva and Rachel. So you missed that session. So good talk from them as well.
I will watch the recording. Sanjay and Rayan, I'm sorry, Rayan, if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, sorry about that. But you guys were awesome. If you guys are ever open, we'd love to get you guys and the other 3 in front of UC Easy students. Just share your perspective as is. You don't have to be in our program. That's awesome.
Thank you, Vinny. And just bear with us for a few more minutes for the question and answer. So we have another sponsor. I would like to introduce him, John Joseph, the CEO of the Seafoods. John, welcome to the program. And you can speak for a minute about your service.
Hey, thanks, Sunil. Thanks for the minute. Well, I landed up as a sponsor reluctantly because Sunil was asking me for a sponsorship. But now I should say I'm really enlightened by the kind of participation from the student community. I mean, when I say student community, people who have gone through the undergrad, selected a course and moved on to achieve great things in other companies. Specifically, I want to use half a minute just to convey my happiness about the management side who has taken this to a next level for the young people in our community. It is very important that they foresee such kind of struggle, like Vinny suggested. As a first-time parent, first-time student, I had a lot of issues for my daughter, who actually graduated from UCLA and USC, and my son from UCSB and USA. They both are working, but the kind of benefits and that you guys enjoy today is great because there is someone to handhold you. You have companies like Vinny Gupta handholding you guys. There is a lot of opportunities open to you guys, but do participate in Camyl. It's a wonderful experience. Now that I'm here, I want to express my gratitude to the management and also to you all for coming here and participating, which makes sense because without participation, the whole exercise is a big zero, right? Now coming to my side, Sunil has already introduced to me, and most of you might know me, and I know most of you. Because we are all from here. My company is based on Fremont. The company name is Seafoods. And to quickly run down through the company, I'm not in the educational technology side, so I'm not going to hop too much on what my company does. We are in the information technology side, and there are 3 categories of service that we do. One is advisory service. Advisory service is actually architectural designs, to be solutions, training the staff on new skills. And the second category is development of software projects, either at the client side or offshore. We have a wing in India too. And the third, of course, is information technology staffing side. But having said that, I'm not going to explain too much about it because you guys are all focused and is still struggling to get to the level of Sanjay and others, right? But I also hear that there are a lot of others from the medicine side. I know Cavalcade family, they are all great achievers, and also the others who came in. So great to see you all here. And I want to thank Sunal especially for pushing me to be a sponsor. Now I feel it's a wonderful experience. My decision was not lost. And thanks once again with a small advice. Do give to others what you have already got. Okay, that's the biggest thing. You are giving by participating here. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John. And this program is live in Facebook and YouTube, and we will be publishing the recorded session as well. People who were not able to join live or not able to watch this program live. So you don't need to worry about it. We'll be publishing that link after this event. So let me introduce our Camyl treasurer and invite Krishna Nair to talk about upcoming Camyl event for 1 minute with you all before our moderators take over the question and answer. So Krishna, come forward.
Hi, I'm Krishna. I'm the treasurer of the current Camyl board, and I'm here to talk about the upcoming Camyl events that we have planned for this year. So through this event, we collected $2,000 through sponsorship, and we're going to spend this at the Camyl Solidarity event that we're planning to conduct on July 15th at the Different Art Center in Trivandrum. On that day, Camyl members and volunteers will be having live interactions with specially abled children. We'll be having lunch with them, and there's going to be a talk from Gopinath Mudugad. Anyone who will be in India at this time is welcome to join us. We're also planning to give goodie bags to these kids. We'll be collecting art kits, and we'll be packing them on Sunday, June 26th. We'll be publishing the sign-up sheet soon, and anyone who's interested to join, please let us know in advance. We're doing fundraising through Manka to sponsor some of these kids at the Different Art Center. And the amount that to sponsor one kid is 1.5 lakhs. This comes to around $2,000, and we're planning to spend our Camyl fund to sponsor 3 kids, and we're looking for your support to sponsor 2 more. Camyl is also planning to conduct a bowling event for kids. It'll be held before school opens in August, and the sign-up sheet will be posted on Facebook and on the Manka website. We encourage all kids to sign up for this event, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. As Krishna mentioned, the amount what you collected on this event, the sponsor amount, the $2,000, will be directly going to the good cause, the charity called Camyl Solidarity Event. So we do need support from the community to help those kids who are in different art center in Trivandrum, Kerala. Now, let me hand this over back to Meryl and Anne-Marie to go over the question and answers.
Thank you so much. So right now we will be starting our question and answer session. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. You're still completely available to send those in. Just to start off, I know these questions, I'd love if everyone can give their input, but we do want to give a chance for like all our questions to be featured. But to kind of start off, so probably Ryan, because you're more familiar with applying to colleges since you did it so recently. But for everyone, what criteria did you use to choose the schools that you wanted to go to, or once you were accepted that you chose to like spend your next 4 years?
For me personally, I knew I kind of wanted to stay in state mainly because of tuition, but also because I just really liked California, and because I've, been brought up here my whole life. I just thought, it'd be nice to go to school in California, stay close to home. Although I know that other peers have different opinions on how close they want to stay to home. But yeah, I mainly wanted to stay in state. And so CSUs and UCs were probably my, the targets. Especially I wanted to take advantage of the lower tuition costs because I am a California resident. But I think I applied to maybe 5 or 6 out of states, which I don't know if that is a lot or a little. But in my like perspective, I think it's fine. I applied to like 5 or 6 out of states, and the way I selected those colleges was when I was doing my research. Um, I just searched up, which which institutions had the best programs for my major, and yeah, that's it really.
All right, thank you for that. Our next question, I will direct at Sanjay because, now looking back after you've established a career and you also mentioned having a lot of, different interests in high school. So do you have any advice for someone in high school who doesn't know what they want to do in the future, who still doesn't understand like what they're passionate about or what they want to major in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just try a lot of different things is probably the best advice I can give you. But yeah, it's kind of a trial by fire, right? Just try different things, see what you're interested in. Maybe related, more concrete advice is I know, especially there might be a lot of extracurricular options that you could do. I think it's probably more valuable to spend more time on a few things and a lot of time on not many things. So try a lot of different things, see what you're interested in, and it's like don't let go, just keep working, right? So that's probably my advice.
Thank you. I'm probably going to direct this question at Alice. Was financial leniency ever kind of like a criteria or like something that you had in the back of your mind when you talked or chose your major? Was that something you had to consider throughout your undergrad journey?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's like definitely you have to do some pros and cons of like if you want to go to higher education, like veterinary school, that's a lot of money and you'll probably make more money. And I want to go get my master's and that hopefully I'll be paid to do that. And then after that, probably won't be making as much as a veterinarian. And so in terms of career paths, that is something that you want to consider, making sure like if you have a salary that is so much that you probably won't be wanting to live in like San Jose, but if you're an engineer, you will make enough to live there. But yeah, you definitely have to look at like how much money a professional in your career with so much experience will make. But in terms of UCs, like someone else was saying, like being in state and going to a UC, you get a lot less like you have to pay a lot less in tuition than someone who's out of state. So that was definitely a good option. But yeah, no, finances were definitely an option, like definitely something I considered when I switched from not wanting to go to vet school to wanting to be a wildlife biologist. And I think our families think that you have to make a lot of money in order to survive, and that's not necessarily true. So don't let that limit you. Consider finances, make sure that you're living on your own, you're able to be independent, but don't let that limit you from the things you love to do.
All right, thank you. Our next question, what about the colleges that you applied to affected your decision whether or not to attend it, like once you got in? What were some of the crucial factors? I'm just going to open this up, whoever wants to answer, I think. If anyone can unmute, just share your thoughts on deciding a college. In that case, maybe Ryan, would you care to answer since you recently selected your college?
Yeah, the question was what about colleges?
Yeah, what helped you like decide what college to actually attend once you got in?
Yeah, UCs were pretty tough this year, I'm not gonna lie. So my options were not too wide. I had a few wait lists that I got off of, but I think I primarily picked Davis because they had a really good biomedical engineering program there, and there's also a lot of hospitals near the Davis area, and so one of the reasons I picked biomedical engineering was because I wanted an engineering background, but I didn't know if medical school was something I wanted to pursue yet. I'm sort of leaving that for me to decide and discover in college. And so, yeah, just having, Davis being a school that's really bio-oriented, I just thought it'd be a really good option for me, as well as, it's just the UC, it's close by. Yeah.
Thank you. Eva, you mentioned that throughout your high school journey, you had the opportunity to work in a public defender's office. And I know in a lot of other fields, shadowing a professional or working with someone who's pretty qualified in that industry is really helpful to see whether it works for you. Is that something that you want to do? So how were you able to find those opportunities? Did you have to like go pretty far for that, or was that pretty local? How are you able to navigate that?
So definitely extracurriculars in high school can be really helpful. And when you're in the Bay Area, you have a lot of unique opportunities. Like I said, mock trial and peer court respectively put me in touch with a lot of great lawyers and judges, even some people working in local government offices who put me in contact with some great opportunities. In terms of the public defenders specifically, that was an opportunity I got while I was in college. Um, that was in Monterey County, so relatively local-ish, about a 1-hour drive. So you can feel very local during the commute, but local enough. And I think, yeah, just to wrap it up, in my experience, legal internships are hard to get, at least proper legally oriented ones, where they don't just have you being like the coffee person or something. Those are hard to get until you're in college because you just don't have that much experience or knowledge to back you. But they are out there in high school. So, go on LinkedIn, go on these job sites and talk to the people you know. Talk to people in general, because like I said, you might be talking to an auntie or an uncle who works in tech, and maybe they know someone in their company's legal department and can hook you up. So the most important thing I think you find after a while in the professional sphere, it's not so much what you know as who you know. Of course, it's important to keep your numbers up, but keep growing your connections, keep growing your network, because that's what's going to help you find these opportunities.
Thank you for that. Our next question is sort of a compound question directed at Rachel. We have sort of two people asking with if I want to become a doctor or if I'm like interested in pursuing biology, how should I pursue research opportunities? When should I do that? Just generally, what sort of extracurriculars or opportunities do you have or should you get?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I did a significant amount of research in high school. I worked in a lab and that's kind of what helped me narrow my major down to neuroscience. And that's what made me really love neuroscience. So I did like behavioral neuroscience research. I think with labs, it's really kind of, I think Sanjay mentioned this, it's really about maximizing how many people you're reaching out to. And a lot of the time you'll find that there are a lot of really cool scientists as well as a lot of really cool labs that are interested in mentoring the next generation of science, are interested in taking you on, even though you're just like, I think I was like a 15-year-old kid that just, but there is still a lot of really cool opportunity out there. And I was really fortunate to do an internship at Stanford the summer of my junior year. And that internship really cemented kind of my desire to pursue medicine as well, because it was like a bioengineering internship. And I realized that while I had kind of the technical, like engineering and like computer science skills to do it, I didn't have the biology or the health or the healthcare knowledge to be able to, it was like a bioengineering, like medical device type of internship. And I didn't have like the healthcare knowledge, like the practical, like anatomy knowledge to be able to make devices that actually worked, even though I was able to like put devices together. So that's kind of what also cemented my desire to go into medicine. So I think like finding internships is a good way to do research, and then also contacting labs. So internship programs, and then also contacting labs yourself and getting like more kind of like long-term research is also really, really good. And they give you kind of different insights. Yeah.
I know this next question, Ron, you kind of touched on it when you were talking, but obviously anyone else can weigh in. Do you think it's more important to show like an upward trend in your GPA? So if you weren't able to get as great grades your freshman year, but as long as you show that improvement, that's better, or is consistency better? Do you want to see a 4.0 or a really high GPA throughout your high school career? So Ryan, would you be able to talk about how you think GPA and that kind of progression helped?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say if you start off with a 4.0, consistency is probably the best thing, right? You wanna keep your grades as high as possible, for as long as possible. But if you are, a few years into high school, or you just came out of freshman year and your grades are not that high at the moment, that was the same case with me. Um, I would say an upward trend definitely shows colleges that, you're capable of improving and you're capable of handling a college-like workload. I don't think they expect everyone to be perfect. I think they'll take into consideration things that, you were new to high school in ninth grade, and as you grew in high school, so did your work ethic and all of that. And so I think it's definitely important to show an upward trend in your transcripts. The really important thing is just not letting them see there is a downward trend, because that's when they start to get a little worried and start to doubt if you can their respective university.
All right, thank you for answering that. Our next question I'll direct towards Alice. What would you say to sort of newer generations that are thinking of pursuing careers that either aren't familiar to like their parents or aren't as well known, but they're passionate about?
That is a really good question. Yeah, that is obviously something that I'm dealing with now. Like, I think our parents have a certain trajectory in mind of engineers or lawyers or doctors, and they know what means that you're doing well at every stage of your life. But for a pathway like conservation biology or getting your master's, that's not really known that much. So I think what's important is to make that timeline and to show that you're doing the work throughout and like document your work, show them, mom, dad, I'm fine. Like this is what it's going to look like in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Like this is how I'm building up skills. Like this is what my jobs mean. And just, your parents say things to love you and show concern for you. Don't take it too seriously. I think I tend to take it pretty seriously, like those comparisons, and like no one wants to feel like their career is being belittled, but your parents love you and they want to make sure that you're going to do well. So, just kind of ignore some things and just stand up for yourself, stand up for your career, stand up for what you want to do, but show that success at every period of time and document what your future is going to look like. And it should be okay. And you'll prove to them.
Thank you. This next question is directed at Rachel. You mentioned your nonprofit work in India. How were you able to find that opportunity? And for kids in high school who are trying to get involved in the community, where would you suggest looking for those opportunities?
I think my nonprofit work came the most organically. My parents have been, really kind of invested in sponsoring or like funding education themselves. So there was this kid that we've been sponsoring for a long time in India, in Kerala. And so kind of growing up, that was kind of a constant thing. He was like maybe a fourth sibling. And so maybe that's where it started. And then as I got into high school, I met a couple of kids in North India and Odisha, who were kind of orphaned in a bad situation, who had reached out, wanted to go to school. And so at first I had no real vision for, what nonprofit work even looked like or what I was going to do or anything, but I was just kind of like, okay, like maybe I can try to like, raise a little bit of money, or like maybe I can try to see what I can do. And so it started off super small, just a small initiative to send one kid to school. But I think you'll find that when you take on endeavors that maybe seem a little bit scary or seem a little bit beyond you, sometimes you can surprise yourself with how much you're able to do. And also, but more importantly than that, like I was super stunned by how many people in kind of like in the community and just of the people that I kind of reached out to in my fundraising efforts, how many people were responsive to the initiative. So I think you'll find that there are a lot of people who are, and a lot of sponsors as well, who are really willing to fund a good cause. It's also really about like pitching and stuff like that too. But that's like, I don't know, if some of you have done DECA, you kind of maybe understand a little bit more about pitching and things like that, and gaining sponsorships and partners and stuff. So yeah, I know that there are a lot of, I will say, I know that there are a lot of nonprofits out there that do a lot of really, really good work. So reaching out to nonprofits, and then also figure out what you're kind of passionate about. For me, it was educational inequality. There are a lot of social issues out there that really do need more attention, and that we are all in positions to do a lot of work, or to make a lot of change in. So just figure out what you actually care about. And I think that's what's gonna help you maximize your impact. So, because if it's something you don't really care about, something you're just doing like just to do it, or just for it to be another thing on your resume, you'll find that you honestly probably won't be as successful in it, or you won't enjoy it while you're doing it. So you probably won't stick with it. So find something you really care about, what actually matters to you. And then like from there, you'll kind of find the drive to just reach out on your own, scope out the landscape, see what the social issue looks like, see who the key players are who are working to make a difference in that area. And then a lot of networking from there.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's like useful advice regardless of the field you're in, or what you're trying to pursue, to just, do what you're passionate about and then hopefully make a difference. I'll direct this question at Eva. Do you have any regrets from high school, or is there something that you would do differently?
Oh my gosh. Fabulous question. I think for any of us as long as you've lived longer than a day, I think any of us would have things that we'd like to redo if we got the chance. But a lot of the lessons that how do I put this? I don't regret anything, because even the mistakes I made taught me important things that helped me later on, like biting off more than I can chew in high school. Would my life in high school been a lot easier if I had taken less APs and maybe shifted things around? Yes, but then I might have had to learn that lesson then in college, or when I was in the workforce at a time when it would have been a lot more critical. So I really don't think there's anything that I'd like to redo, to be honest with you, because every mistake you make or every failure it's as corny as it sounds. It's a learning opportunity, for real. There are some things you just don't learn until you make the mistake. So
No, that's a great answer. And then I guess to build on that, maybe now that you've made your mistakes, right? If there was something that you could prevent new high schoolers from making.
Sure. Really, again, so I understand that for certain careers, certain APs may be helpful to you, but if your goal is just to get the credit and kind of game your way out of those general education requirements in college, I would personally recommend community college courses. I wish I had taken more and kind of shifted some of the burden for myself that way. Aside from that, yeah, just spent my time more wisely, because once you're, I feel like Sanjay will be able to resonate with me on this. Once you're in the workforce, you really just keep grinding. It's very easy in high school to say, oh, I'm going to grind like this just until I get to college. And then in college, you say, just until I get that job or grad school. And it's really hard then later on to appreciate like living in the moment and saying, I wish when I was in high school, I had just taken that time to go out with my family on that weekend, or to go to church, or spend time doing whatever it is that you might not have time for once you're in college or graduate school or that job. But yes, APs, spend time with your family, enjoy the moments you have. Those would be the three.
Yeah, thank you for that, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I think we covered most of the questions that have come in. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Thank you to all the speakers. All of your answers were amazingly detailed and really, really informative. I'd like to hand it off to.
Before that, I'm not sure. There are last two questions came in. I'm not sure whether we covered it or not. The question is, what are some good internship for people going into the medical field? Did we cover that?
I think Rachel did talk about something
mention like research opportunities and things like that.
But if someone has done a research opportunity or an internship, that kind of helped. I know, Ryan, you're also in a similar field. So if there's something in particular that you'd like to talk about.
I think she pretty much covered it. I think internships are a great way to sort of sort of broaden your horizons and see if some, that field is something that works for you and that you would want to pursue a career in. Because at the end of the day, you're going in to pursue this career for the rest of your life. And so you probably want to love what you're doing, and you probably want to have, keep your interest high in it. And so, yeah, I think internships are a great way to do that. Finding internships, like Sanjay was saying, literally cold call professors. If you go online, you could probably find like tens of thousands of different links to different organizations that sponsor these things, not only for undergraduate students but high school students as well. And so I think with enough digging, you'll find an opportunity, and an opportunity will come to you.
And I think that pretty much covers it in terms of Q&A. So thank you everyone for answering questions and for submitting questions, and we hope you learned something. Sunilanko?
Yeah, so we are done with the question and answer, so we can go to the last portion of our event. So let us invite Camyl co-director Padma Priya Palot for vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I am Padma Priya. I'm the co-director of Camyl. It's my pleasure to use this time to show and express our gratitude to all the people who work really hard to make this event successful. Sincere thanks to all our 5 distinguished guest speakers, Alice Matthew, Eva Ryan, Rachel Kavlakat, Ryan Narayan Swami, and Sanjay Srikumar for coming forward and spending time with us for this highly informative session this evening. You guys have shared your valuable experiences and advices for our young generation to get motivated. On behalf of Camyl, we express our gratitude to all of you. Camyl team wish you all very best for your future career path. Our sponsors, UCEC and CFORDS, you supported this event for a very great cause. So thank you, both of you from Camyl team. Then audience, you guys are the recipients and beneficiaries of this event. Thank you for all your active participation. Thank you to all Manka and Camyl executives and board of directors for attending this session and supporting this event. Special thanks to a few individuals who really work hard to make this event successful. Jackson Puyapadam, our Manga treasurer, for supporting and helping us provide the technical support for this event. Meryl and Anne-Marie, our moderators for this evening. You guys did a great job today. And Krishna for briefing about the upcoming Camyl events. Tom Charlie, our Manga secretary, and Srijit Kurturi, the past president of Manga, for helping us manage this event. Special thanks to Raji Menon for giving external support and guidance for making this happen. And last but not least, our Camyl director, Sunil Varghese, for all his hard work and vision to support Camyl and this activity. Thank you, Sunil, for all your support. Once again, thank you all for making this a successful event.
Yeah, thank you, Priya, for you two working together with me and Camyl team to make this event successful too. With this, we are concluding our event. And once again, thank you all for attending, and thank you to our special speakers. And tomorrow is the Father's Day. All the fathers, on behalf of Camyl, we wish you a happy Father's Day. Stay happy, stay blessed, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you.